doing today? All right, are you guys animal lovers? Anybody? Hands up? Good, me too, me too. Has any of y'all ever seen an animal build a house? Anybody? Yeah? What kind of house?
Beavers.
Ooh, beavers. What kind of house are they building? A dam across the river, right? Out of sticks? Wow, that's a good one. What kind of animal? You have one?
A bird's nest.
A bird's nest up in a tree, right?
Yeah.
That's very good. What kind of animal builds maybe a hive up in a tree?
Bees.
Bees? Perfect. They're builders as well. How about any other ideas?
Ants.
Ants, an anthill out of dirt. That's a great one. Well, I have one more type of animal that builds a big house. All right? I'm talking 10 feet high. Do we know how high 10 feet is? Everybody stand up. Stand up and show us how high 10 feet is. Reach as high as you can. No,
You're probably
I'm pretty tall, but even I'm not 10 feet. All right, well, this animal can build a house that's that tall. Well, and it also can build a house that's very long, maybe 40 feet long. Everybody stretch out. Be careful not to hit anybody. But look at this. We'll say everyone in here has maybe a 5-foot wingspan, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. It can be that whole long and 10 feet high, giant house. But you can walk right by it or over it and not even know it's there. How can that be? Because it's underground. This animal will actually dig underground, underneath your feet, for its house. Well, what kind of animal do we think can do this? It's got to be specialized, right? If you needed to dig a hole that big, you'd have to use tools, right? What would you need?
A shovel.
A shovel, right? Well, this animal doesn't need a shovel. It can do it all on its own. And I happened to bring it with me today. Everyone sit down. Everyone stay calm while we bring this out. It's a pretty calm, quiet little creature, but we don't need anybody getting too excited about it. I have with me today Mitzi, the gopher tortoise. And if anyone knows what a gopher is, right? They dig underground too. Well, this tortoise is named for that very reason, because it can dig very big tunnels that it'll live in. Now, I'll bring her around. You can see her front legs are just like shovels. They're made to dig. Her back legs, they're not the same. You can tell a big difference between the front legs and the back, because she will dig in with these powerful front legs and be able to make tunnels that are just immense. It's a lot of room for one animal, isn't it? And you see this specific tortoise actually has some deformations on her shell because she was taken out of the natural habitat and put in a terrarium in someone's house under a sun lamp where she couldn't dig away from the sun, and it actually burned her whole shell. It's really dangerous. And I'll pass her off to Emily here to tell you a little bit more about it.
All right. So, if we didn't mention, this is Mitzi, our gopher tortoise. And she digs burrows to help protect her from predators, but also the sun. So just like this critter here couldn't protect herself and dig a burrow in that terrarium she was in, so she got this burn marking. You see that there? Okay, so the really cool thing about these burrows that Mitzi and other gopher tortoises dig is that they not only house the gopher tortoise, but also so many other creatures. There's over 300 different species that inhabit these burrows. So Mitzi's special digging talent makes a huge impact on the environment. And so there's a term for this when one species impacts so many different other species. And that's called a keystone species. So we've got that written up on the board. And I always like to break down a word when I'm not sure exactly what it means. So a key, what's the key used for? It's to open stuff. So you have to have the right key to unlock a door. So Mitzi is like that key that opens up this burrow so that species can come into their home. So the next word, stone. what does somebody mean by that phrase? You're my rock. Anybody have any ideas?
Like you can lean on them?
You can lean on them. So Mitzi is the rock to so many of these species that live in this burrow because they can depend on her, and she's very important. If she's not there, they don't have a home. So we're going to put her away real quick. And we're going to talk about the kinds of animals that we can find in the burrow that Mitzi might make. So here's some burrow buddies that we might find. Let's come a little closer. Turn this way. Okay, so we've got Mitzi up here, our gopher tortoise. Can everybody see? Has everybody got some good view? Back a little bit. You can come out. Okay, so this is just a few of the species that you might find in the burrow. Oh, perfect. You can stand up then. Okay, so what is the first one that you see? Anybody start calling them out? A snake? Okay, so we have a picture of two snakes here because there's many types of snakes. There's venomous and non-venomous snakes that use these burrows. What else do we see? We've got say again?
A bunny.
A bunny. Bunnies need to get away from predators, so they're going to go and hide in these holes. Other reasons that animals use these holes, they rest here. They might feed and bring some food in. They reproduce. They get away from extreme temperatures. If it's raining or if it's too hot or too cold, they can come and get some security here. So we've also got a burrowing owl. Have you guys ever heard of a burrowing owl? What's in their name? Burrow. So they depend on burrows. There's also this guy here. His name is a gopher frog, and that is because he depends on a gopher tortoise's burrow. We've also got some bigger mammals. A fox. A fox might use a burrow. We've got mice. They might go in there. And what's really cool is that the burrow has these long tunnels that the gopher tortoise builds, but then also these smaller critters inside might add on into their own little burrows in their holes. So we've got rabbits, we've got lizards, armadillos, opossum, and even skunk. So that's really cool. The thing is, without these burrows, where are these animals going to go? Does anybody have an idea? No, I don't either. These animals depend on the gopher tortoise. If this gopher tortoise didn't dig this burrow, the gopher tortoise wouldn't be there, wouldn't have somewhere to live, and neither would all of these animals. So if this gopher tortoise disappears, if we as humans don't protect it, or if we cause troubles for it, then what are we going to do? It's a keystone species, as we talked about. So it's a very important animal. It's like a domino effect. If you take that one domino, push it down, the rest of them are going to go down too. So now that we know some really cool things about these burrows that you might not have known before, how would you feel if you had one of these burrows in your own backyard? Anybody? What do you think?
Happy.
Happy? Why would you feel happy?
Because a lot of animals would be living in my backyard.
Right, that'd be really cool. You may get to see some wildlife in your yard, but sometimes some of these species spend their entire life underground in this burrow, so you may not see them. So sometimes they won't bother you at all, and you should not bother the burrow at all. So we have here another friend with us that Dakota is going to share with us, and this is a non-venomous snake that we have here. So Dakota, let's see what we got today.
So I have another question for you all. Knowing what you know about burrows, how would you feel if you knew that in the burrow, say you found one in your yard, how would you feel about if you have a snake living in that burrow, or more than one snake living in that burrow?
Anybody?
I'd freak out.
Why would you
Why would
freak
you
out?
freak out?
I don't really like snakes. They scare me.
Why do they scare you?
I don't know, they're just big.
So would you just keep away from the snake?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing to do. You want to introduce our friend here?
So right here, we have a friend. This is Snowy. She is an albino corn snake. And something really interesting about Snowy that I want to talk to you about is exactly what you had mentioned. Like, when you first think of snakes, a lot of times it strikes fear into people's hearts and people get a little afraid. They get a little uncomfortable thinking that there might be a snake living in my backyard. But the more you come to find out about our friend Snowy here, the more you come to find out that she's actually incredibly important for our environment and the food chain. And she's actually a great friend to have around. So one thing that I want to talk to you about today is misconceptions and how to identify snakes. So if you look right here, Snowy, what sticks out about Snowy? Her tongue. What else? She's white. Exactly.
Red eyes.
She does. Many different things stick out about her. Hers, she is a albino corn snake, and she's white. And then her eyes are circular, and her pupils are red. So one of these things, her skin being white is a coloration that would not allow her to live in the wild, because it is a mutation that would let her stick out for her predators. They could find her easily. But one thing I wanted to talk about with Snowy, her being a corn snake, is her benefit to the environment. She lives and she can occupy homes like this burrow, and she also is incredibly important because she eats many rodents. Many rodents, such as mice and rats, that if they were to populate without Snowy, if Snowy were to disappear because, say, someone found her living in a burrow at their house, and then they were afraid of her, not knowing anything about her, so they killed her, then rats and mice could take over where they're living. And what about rats and mice are dangerous is that they carry many diseases that can harm people. So without Snowy keeping these mice and rats in control, we could be in danger because we could have so many mice and rats on our hands that could really get us sick and cause a lot of harm to us. Also, without Snowy, that would disrupt another part of the food chain, which would be predators like hawks and owls and other pretty large birds of prey that you see. Without Snowy, we wouldn't have them because they depend on Snowy for food and other things. So I'm going to walk around and talk to you more about Snowy. She, as you notice, I had talked earlier, she has a oval-shaped head. Do you see that? And her eyes are round. Notice her head and her eyes. This is a distinct characteristic of a non-venomous snake. And that's something I want to talk to you about right here. Venomous and non-venomous. And keep in mind how I say venomous and non-venomous, and I specifically use the term for venom because snakes are creatures that have venom, not poison. A lot of times people want to say poisonous, and I myself have even said it before, but I've caught myself and said, oh, that's a poisonous snake. That's not true. It's a venomous snake or a non-venomous snake. Poison is something that has to be touched on the skin, ingested in your mouth, something like that. Venom is something that has to be injected through fangs or a bite. So, venomous snakes, characteristics of those would be that they have a triangular or diamond-shaped head. When we look at Snowy, we see that she doesn't have a triangular or diamond-shaped head. She has an oval head. And I'm not going to get too close because I understand that some of you might be afraid, but I just want to show you right here. So,
She's in his
it's okay.
pocket.
Yeah, she's just being funny because she's a friendly, non-venomous snake. And it's okay because once you know more about them, you know that you don't have to be afraid of them. Another thing about Snowy that's like makes her a non-venomous snake is her eyes. If you look at her eyes, we know that venomous snakes have slits on their eyes. They're vertical pupils. Snowy doesn't have that. She just has round eyes, like how humans have round eyes. That's what Snowy has.
She really likes his pocket.
Yeah. It's okay. She's just looking for somewhere that's warm, like burrows, how burrows could probably protect them. She's just looking for somewhere that's warm. She's trying to find a burrow in my pocket. Venomous snakes. Remember, so whenever you stumble across a snake, remember that two different key identifiers of a venomous or a non-venomous would be that venomous have a triangular head or a diamond-shaped head because of their venom glands. But non-venomous have oval, and their eyes are much different. Venomous have slits in their eyes, vertical slits, whereas these have round pupils.
Okay, so after everything that you just learned about, not only about gopher tortoises and the burrows and how important they are, and that a lot of snakes actually aren't venomous and aren't going to hurt you, you might be kind of surprised to learn that there are people out there who either, a lot of times it's because they're scared, but sometimes it's for other reasons too. They go out of their way to hurt these animals and destroy their homes and make it so they have nowhere to live. And they actually can go out of their way to kill them too sometimes. So, ooh, sorry. So one of the ways that they'll do this is through a rattlesnake roundup. And so that is, they think that there's venomous snakes like rattlesnakes living in these burrows. And so they'll pour either gasoline or smoke down it to try to kill the rattlesnakes. But in doing that, they kill all the other animals that depend on that burrow. And one way that we can work to prevent people from doing things like this is to flag the burrows, put a little orange flag, or to put a sign up that details the benefits of the burrow, the animals that live there, and the fact that it's made by a keystone species and how important that it is. And you can share information with your parents, like maybe they found a burrow on your property, and like you guys said, you'd be excited by that, but maybe your parents don't know all the cool things about a burrow, and they might just think about like scary snakes. So it's kind of now on you guys to help spread that information to your friends and your family and make sure that they know the importance of these burrows. So what we're gonna do with you guys right now is we're gonna have you make your very own sign that, let's say your mom or dad finds a burrow. You guys would put this sign out front to tell them and the whole neighborhood how important it is. So you guys are gonna use some markers that we have, and you can draw a picture, you can write the word keystone species, and you can tell them about it. You can draw a snake or like a cute little possum that might be living in there, something that's maybe not as scary to a lot of people. You guys will probably get two colors.
Crayons back because they were sort of green.
So what kind of things might you guys be thinking about in your head? What kind of things are you going to write on your sign to keep people from hurting these burrows, to protect them?
Important.
Important? What about it is important?
Safe zone.
A safe zone. That's a good way to put it. So go ahead and for about 3 or 4 minutes, let's make our signs to make sure no one disturbs these areas, and then we're going to share it, and then we're going to wrap up.
I like your analogy of a hotel. I think that's really good. Because the burrows are like hotels or apartment buildings. You know, there's a lot of different animals that use
While
those
y'all are
houses.
working, if you're interested in touching Mitzi, with 2 fingers, you can either touch the shell or their back leg here, and you can feel their scales. You know that Mitzi the tortoise is a reptile, so they have scaly skin.
You guys write it down. And smoking is bad for you, but there should be no smoke. I like the use of humor. Do you guys want to touch Mitzi's?
Interested in touching turtles?
2-finger touch. That's good. Use the word keystone. Always a vacancy. I like that a lot. Drawing a burrow.
What warning sign would you put out for the burrows?
Say hey to the camera, Mitzi.
Oh, perfect. She's such a star.
Good girl.
Thank you, Hunter. That's great. Just so you know.
Thank you guys. Mitzi's gonna wave to y'all now.
Look at her.
Give a little goodbye wave. wonderful audience.
Okay, so we got about 1 more minute to finish up our posters, and then we're going to share a few. Has anybody finished theirs yet? You look like you're done. You want to tell us what you got? Come up here. Come up here and show us. Come on.
Right.
Here, I'll hold it for you, and you go ahead and tell us what we
Okay,
got.
so I did the Keystone Hotel, and I said always a vacancy because anybody can go in and they can make their own little boroughs, so
That's
they can be
awesome.
separate from everyone else.
Always a vacancy at the Keystone Hotel. Show that to the camera.
That's
Very
nice.
good. Okay, what about one more person?
Who else is done with theirs? Do you wanna come
You
show
wanna
it to the
share?
class?
Come on up.
Says yo yo yo. Bro contains really cool stuff, y'all.
Yo, this borough contains really cool stuff, y'all, and it really does. That's a great one too. We'll show that to the camera. All right. You guys have done a great job. What's your
Respect.
respect?
The borough equals a house. Yep.
Stop borough in use. Keystone species here. You guys have done a great job, and I think
It's all great.
now that we know that Keystone
Nice,
species,
nice.
the gopher tortoise, is an important aspect of our environment, and that means under the ground, maybe keep our eyes open a little bit more about the little holes that we see, and be mindful of them, and careful, and tell people that they're there. So, everyone, let's give a round of applause to all of your and let's share the word about these wonderful burrows.
You can see the turtle.
All right. Well, I will.